A single planet is not enough to guarantee the survival of humanity. Stephen Hawking. Earth is our home. But for how long? Climate change, natural disasters, overpopulation, and even cosmic threats put our existence at risk. If one day our planet becomes uninhabitable, where could we go? This is not just a question of science fiction, but a reality that scientists have been studying for years. In this video, we will explore the most promising planets for human colonization, the technological and biological challenges of this journey, and what is already being done to turn this possibility into reality. If you watch until the end, you will discover our real chances of living on another world and how this could happen sooner than we imagine. If humanity needs to leave Earth, Mars is the most obvious candidate. Located about 225 million kilometers away, the Red Planet is already the target of space missions and colonization projects. Its soil contains minerals, there is evidence of underground water, and its atmosphere, though thin and composed mainly of carbon dioxide, could be manipulated to create a minimally habitable environment. Companies like Elon Musk's SpaceX already have plans to send humans to Mars in the coming years. The idea is to build underground bases or structures covered with Martian materials to protect against radiation. In addition, terraforming technologies could, in the future, transform Mars into a place more like Earth by increasing its temperature and creating a thicker atmosphere. However, living on Mars would bring extreme challenges. The average temperatures of -60 dU4C, colossal dust storms, and low gravity, about 38% of Earth's, could have negative effects on human health in the long run. The need to rely on spacesuits and closed life support systems would make Martian life very different from what we are used to. Even so, Mars remains our best bet for a second home in the solar system. Research is advancing rapidly, and some say that within a few decades, we may see the first humans setting foot on Martian soil. But what if Mars is not enough? Are there better options out there? If humanity wants to become an interplanetary species, the Moon is the perfect place to start. Located just 3 days away from Earth, it could serve as a forward outpost for future space missions. But what if, instead of just visiting, we tried to live there? That is precisely the plan of several space agencies, including NASA, which intends to build a permanent base at the Moon's South Pole with the Artemis mission. It sounds like an incredible idea, but the reality is much more complicated. The Moon is an extremely hostile environment for human life. To begin with, it has no atmosphere. This means that settlers would not only need artificial oxygen at all times, but would also be completely exposed to solar and cosmic radiation. On Earth, our atmosphere and magnetic field protect us from these dangerous radiations. But on the Moon, the only option would be to live in underground structures or covered by thick layers of lunar soil. Another major problem is the extreme temperature. During the lunar day, temperatures can reach 100 dU4C, hot enough to melt some metals. At night, they drop to -170 dU4C, freezing everything rapidly. Any life support equipment would need to be highly resistant and self-sustaining to handle these brutal conditions. And there is one more detail that often goes unnoticed: lunar dust. The Moon's soil is made up of extremely fine and sharp particles, almost like ground glass. This dust can be dangerous if inhaled, and also sticks to everything, damaging equipment and spacesuits. During the Apollo missions, astronauts reported that lunar dust was one of the biggest problems, scratching visors, causing allergies, and making mobility difficult. Despite all these challenges, scientists believe that colonizing the Moon could be an essential first step in learning how to live beyond Earth. If we manage to create a sustainable environment there, Mars and other distant worlds could become much more viable possibilities. But is the Moon really the best place to start? Or are there even more promising options? If Mars is the most talked about planet when we think of colonization, Venus might seem like an impossible choice. After all, it is a true hell. Temperatures of nearly 500 to 4 C, a toxic atmosphere, and crushing pressures that can destroy even the most resistant robots. But what if I told you that, despite everything, Venus could be a viable option for humanity? The surface of Venus is inhospitable to any form of earthly life. The heat is intense enough to melt lead, and its atmosphere, composed mainly of carbon dioxide, creates an uncontrolled greenhouse effect. Moreover, the clouds are filled with sulfuric acid, making the mere idea of walking there a death sentence. But here's the secret. We wouldn't need to live on Venus's surface. NASA scientists have proposed an innovative concept called floating cities of Venus. The idea would be to create suspended colonies in the upper layers of the atmosphere, where pressure and temperature are much more moderate, almost similar to those on Earth. At 50 kilometers altitude, we could build massive floating stations that would use the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to generate lift, like a helium balloon. Still, living on Venus would present enormous challenges. The atmosphere, even at this altitude, still contains sulfuric acid, requiring advanced filtration technologies and corrosion protection. Communication with Earth would also be complicated, as Venus is shrouded in a thick layer of clouds that interferes with radio signals. Additionally, the planet rotates so slowly that a single Venusian day is equivalent to 243 Earth days, which could affect our biological rhythms and the organization of colonies. But if we could overcome these challenges, Venus could become a fascinating place for humanity, with gravity similar to Earth's. Unlike the low gravity of Mars or the Moon, our physiology would suffer fewer impacts. Furthermore, its proximity to Earth would allow for faster and more frequent travel. In the end, the hell of Venus might not be as impossible as it seems, so long as we stay off the ground. If the search for a new home for humanity takes us beyond Mars and Venus, we must look at the moons of the gas giants. Among them, one of the most intriguing is Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. At first glance, it may seem like an inhospitable place, covered by a thick layer of ice and far from the sun's warmth. But beneath this frozen surface may lie one of the largest oceans in the solar system and, perhaps even the key to human survival. Europa is completely covered in ice, but images and data from space probes indicate that a global ocean exists beneath this frozen crust, kept liquid by the heat generated by Jupiter's gravity. This means that, despite the intense cold on the surface, around -160 dU4C, its ocean could be a more stable environment, perhaps even similar to some regions on Earth. If we learn to explore these deep waters, we could find an abundant source of water, and, who knows, even extraterrestrial life. But living on Europa would not be easy. To begin with, the Moon's surface is constantly bombarded by intense radiation from Jupiter, making it impossible to live externally without extreme protection. The solution? Building underground bases within the ice, where colonists could be shielded from this deadly radiation. Additionally, we would need to develop technologies capable of drilling through kilometers of ice to access the oceans below, something that is still a major challenge for space engineering. Another obstacle would be the distance. Jupiter is more than 600 million kilometers from Earth, meaning that sending supplies or reinforcements to a colony on Europa would be much more complicated than to Mars or the Moon. The journeys would take years, and any problem could become fatal without a self-sufficient system for producing food, oxygen, and energy. Even so, if we could overcome these difficulties, Europa could be one of the most promising locations for human colonization. With an abundance of water, natural protection against meteorite impacts, and a relatively stable surface, this frozen moon could be a refuge for humanity. In the future, at least an outpost, in our exploration of deep space. If there is a place in the solar system that truly resembles a habitable alien world, that place is Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Unlike Europa, which hides an ocean beneath the ice, Titan has a dynamic surface with rivers, lakes, and seas. But there's a catch. These bodies of water are not made of liquid water, but of methane and ethane, substances that are extremely cold and toxic to humans. Still, many scientists believe that this moon could be one of the best places to establish a colony in space. One of Titan's greatest advantages is that it has a dense atmosphere, something rare among the moons of the solar system. This atmosphere protects the surface from space radiation and allows for a climate cycle similar to Earth's with rain, evaporation, and winds. However, this atmosphere is composed mainly of nitrogen and methane, meaning we would need advanced systems to convert these gases into breathable oxygen. Another fascinating factor is that Titan's gravity is low, about 14% of Earth's, but its dense atmosphere would allow for a unique form of locomotion. People could literally fly with wings attached to their arms. With a simple push, a human could take large leaps and glide through the sky, something impossible anywhere else in the solar system. But living on Titan would still present major challenges. To start, temperatures are freezing, reaching -180 dU-4C on the surface. Additionally, solar energy would not be a viable option, as Saturn is extremely far from the Sunday. This means that we would need nuclear reactors or other forms of energy generation to keep a colony running. Even with all these difficulties, Titan remains one of the most promising destinations for a future colony. With abundant resources, protection against radiation, and an atmosphere that allows human flight, this moon of Saturn could be a viable option if humanity ever needs to leave Earth. But what if we looked even farther beyond the solar system? Could there be a planet truly similar to Earth waiting for us? So far, we have explored places within our own solar system, but the truth is that none of them are truly like Earth. If we want to find a real home for humanity, we may need to look beyond the Sunday, searching for exoplanets worlds orbiting other stars. And the good news? We have already discovered thousands of them, and some seem promising. The first criterion for an exoplanet to be habitable is that it must be in the habitable zone of its star, meaning the right distance for liquid water to exist on its surface. One of the most famous candidates is Proxima b, which orbits Proxima Centauri, the closest star to the Sunday. This planet is similar in size to Earth and may have conditions for life, but there is a problem. It is 4.2 light-years away. That may seem small in cosmic terms, but with current technology, it would take us thousands of years to get there. Another promising exoplanet is Kepler-442b, located about 1,200 light-years from Earth. It is nearly the same size and composition as our planet and receives enough light to potentially support a stable climate. The big challenge? The journey would be incredibly long, requiring technologies we do not yet have, such as spacecraft capable of traveling near the speed of light, or the creation of space colonies that would live for many generations inside a ship until reaching the destination. But even if we found a perfect exoplanet, colonization would be an epic mission. How could we ensure the planet does not have toxic atmospheres? How would we survive if there were no biosphere compatible with ours? And most intriguingly, what if life already exists there? The search for habitable exoplanets is just beginning, but one thing is certain. If we develop technologies to travel between the stars, humanity's future could lie on a distant planet far beyond our solar system. But until then, is there an alternative to surviving without needing a planet? If finding a truly habitable planet proves impossible, perhaps the best option is to build our own home in space. This idea may seem like science fiction, but scientists are already studying realistic concepts for gigantic space cities and self-sustaining colony ships capable of supporting humanity for generations. One of the most well-known ideas is the so-called O'Neill cylinder, a project theorized by physicist Gerard K. O'Neill in the 1970s. He envisioned gigantic cylinders floating in space, rotating to create artificial gravity and capable of housing millions of people. Inside these structures, there would be cities, forests, rivers, and even a controlled climate system. The material to build these colonies could come from the moon or asteroids, making the idea even more feasible. Another alternative is colony ships through space arcs that would travel through the cosmos for generations until finding a new home. These ships would be self-sustaining, with advanced systems for recycling water and air, food cultivation, and even artificial biome. Humanity could live inside these spacecraft for centuries without needing a fixed planet to survive. But there are major challenges. Maintaining a functional society in an isolated ship for so long would require perfect social and psychological balance. How would we deal with issues like overpopulation, resource shortages, or internal conflicts? Additionally, the materials would need to be incredibly durable to withstand radiation and the wear of time. Even so, the idea of floating cities could be the ultimate solution for humanity's survival. After all, if we can live sustainably in space, we will never again be dependent on a single planet to exist. But this leads us to one last and crucial question. Is humanity truly ready to leave Earth? After exploring Mars, the Moon, Venus, the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, distant exoplanets, and even the idea of space cities, an inevitable question arises: do we really need to abandon Earth? On one hand, space colonization may be essential to ensure humanity's survival. As Stephen Hawking warned, we should not keep all our eggs in one basket. Earth has faced mass extinctions in the past, and natural disasters, climate change, pandemics, or even asteroid impacts could pose existential threats. If we have colonies beyond Earth, our species will become much more resilient. On the other hand, none of the options we explored are as perfect as our own planet. Mars is dry and inhospitable. The Moon is dangerous. Venus is a toxic hell, and exoplanets are too far away. Building space cities would require immense technology, and living isolated in the vacuum of space is not natural for our biology. Should we, instead of searching for a new home, focus on preserving the world we already have? The truth is that humanity needs both options. Exploring and colonizing space does not mean abandoning Earth, but rather ensuring our future and expanding our horizon. If we succeed, we could become an interplanetary civilization, living both in space and on distant planets without ever forgetting where we came from. The future is still uncertain, but one thing is clear. The first step toward living among the stars begins now, with the knowledge, technology, and curiosity that drive us to explore the unknown.